Hey, this is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things, and I have my second shoebox swap. Finally finished, all of the materials cut, and I need to submit two different versions of it. And so I have one finished one, and then I have one partially finished one, and I wanted to do a couple of demos before I finish the final version. So the first version, the main technique for this particular card, the idea of creating shoebox swaps for fellow demonstrators, is to have them play with different techniques that perhaps they've not ever used before. So the main technique here that I am exploring, or wanting them to explore, is using the Stampin' Up! Colored pencils dry. And then the other aspect that people who are demonstrators who have used these colored pencils, they are watercolor pencils, and so I've always seen them used wet. So I want to encourage them to explore using them dry. So in an effort to encourage them, because the rest of the card is very simple and there isn't a lot except for the basic assembly, they have 5 to 15 minutes to put this card together. So I've done what I can to prepare all of the other materials for a very quick assembly so that they can spend 10 minutes of their time playing with the coloring. The coloring is very simple. It is just using Gorgeous Grape, Balmy Blue, Granny Apple Green, Basic Gray, and Daffodil Delight, and then I have a normal sized eraser and then a little mini eraser for them to play with. So I've done this particular one, I have not done much erasing on, so I want to show you what you can do to make the colors pop, the colored pencil colors. So over here I have provided a regular copy paper sample worksheet for them to explore before they get to work on their final version. And so I have a whole bunch of these sheets, and they do say that they are practice squares. Then once they finish coloring, I also say that they can cut these squares out. I'll provide scissors, and if they want to play with the layouts of their birds, that gives them a chance to do a pre-layout before they commit to doing the coloring. Because once you're done with coloring, you will see that there are splatters. They may decide not to coordinate color on color like I did, who knows, but there is splattering to be done before you apply the birds, so you need to kind of know where they are. So the coloring aspect has what's called the eraser technique, where you color, and in this green one you can see that I've colored the purple, and I pretty much just left it dark purple. I didn't have any highlights designated. Where over here I actually have some lighter areas in the green, same with the blue, and same with this purple. My favorite one actually is this purple one, how it came out. So I have a flat version of the card, and then now I'm going to show you my almost assembled version, showing the difference in the watercolor, or not watercolor, the colored pencil coloring. So on the right I've got my eraser technique used, where I make things light and bright, and on the left would be just a typical not putting any depth in the coloring. And it just is an opportunity. They can choose to leave it flat, or they can go ahead and use the eraser technique. Here I am showing how you can erase the pencil. This is a very smooth cardstock. This is basic white, and it doesn't have a lot of tooth to it. I like that. I'm sorry I'm shaking the table. I hope the camera isn't shaking. So this gives it some depth, and then the smaller eraser, like on this green, if I wanted to lighten up the chest area, I was more careful on the second round. I wanted to give a version for them. This first one I just did as if I wasn't like a coloring person. The second one I did like a coloring person, so that I could give them an example, a good example of what you can do with the highlights. This is a little bit hard. I'm doing this after the fact. These are on dimensionals because they are popped up, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging. I also do have an electric eraser, but I'm not going to bring that. They can use these two basic ones. Now what's interesting too is that this card was done, I did this over a week ago. I should probably give you guys a quick update. So we are in North Carolina, or South Carolina, sorry, and had to escape from Hurricane Ian, which ironically landed south of where it was supposed to land. The initial path of it was supposed to be having it land in Tampa and going right over Orlando. What did it do? It instead hit Fort Myer, and I am so sorry to the Fort Myer people who were affected. It's just, it looks horrible. It's like a third world country natural disaster apocalypse event. It's just amazing in a bad way. However, so after it hit Fort Myers, and I'm also lightening up the beaks a little as well, it then traveled across, of all things, Wauchula, the Peace River, which is our other campground that we stay at. We've stayed at many, many times. And there they flooded so bad that they were like many feet over their previous highest point for the Peace River. And so then it traipsed along very, very slowly, and it was downgraded. It landed as a Category 4. It ended up being a tropical storm, and it went right over Titusville. And my realtor who lives there saw the eye and said, in the midst of all this horrible wind and rain, there were blue skies overhead. It was crazy. But we are buying a house there. Our house closes on the 12th. There was no damage to it. It is a newer home with storm shutters and a metal roof. So, I mean, it is all set up. It even has a whole house generator. So if we had been there, which we would have loved to have been there, we could have, and the power never went out. So we wouldn't even have needed the generator. Okay, so there's that one. I did a much better job of the lights and darks over here, and I found when I erased, when it was freshly applied, the lead from these pencils, that it was far easier to erase. Now, if I wanted to go back through just to show you guys that you can go in here and now add more shadows in, like, under the wing, where the wing would be. See, so I will give you a close-up. Just really brightening it up because I already knocked it back with the eraser. And again, it's a little hard to draw and color on with having the dimensionals already applied. My mom commented when she saw this card I was working on. She says, I didn't know there were purple parakeets. And I said, yes, there are. I did a little sleuthing on Google, and sure enough, there are purple parakeets. So see, now I'm brightening back up. I'm using a little bit heavier pressure at this point. And I won't be doing a demo, so I don't expect them to, you know, really, I'm not going to explain everything. I do have a page of instructions that will have a few tips. So if they treat these just like blends, except it's one pencil, and it's the light, medium, and dark that you use to get blends with the alcohol markers. You actually, in this case, because we only have one pencil for each color, you just add more layers, more and more layers of color. So now I hope that you guys are seeing the depth that I'm adding by first knocking back the color up in the chest area and the neck area of all three birds, and now I'm going in and adding a final layer of color. And if you wanted to blend smoothly, and I did add this in the instructions, I said to use small circles. So I'm kind of using small oblong circles, so that I really like how that bird came out, very similar to my green bird. And colored pencils are funny. You can make them produce a lovely finished project very quickly, or you can just keep going and going and going. I am doing just the bare minimum, just enough to get the demonstrators to see what they can produce with these, not used as a wet medium. So there you have it. I have now knocked back the color with the eraser and then come back in, and under the tail and under the belly of each one I've added the dark, and I'm not doing any gray. The only thing I did on my purple bird here, it's a little bit more vibrant because I added some blue. So I blended in this balmy blue at the very start. It's now burnished. If I look at it at an angle, it's shiny, so it's pretty much done. It means that I have basically used up all of the tooth. And so given that, I just, at the very first, I did a light layer of the purple and then a very light layer of this blue, just to get it a little bit brighter, because it is the gorgeous grape and I'm putting it on Highland Heather. All right, so the next thing, that's mainly what I wanted to show you, and then I am trying to give them this vine as full as possible. I very carefully lifted up every one of these so that they can carefully pop out a random placement of the innards, or if they want to take them all out, they can. I prefer having it be a mix of some of the chads removed and others remaining. So that's what I mean by removing some of the chads, just popping out some of the little innards to give it more depth. I already created their bow. This one is, all of them I have submitted a little bit wide. They'll go ahead and glue this on. If they want to pop it up, they can. And then I created over here, I've cut them a piece of twine and I created their bow. And I didn't want them to fuss with the bow because this is a watercolor pencil exercise. So everybody gets a completed bow. I will get this assembled, and then these dots, the matte decorative dots, are the perfect dots for this project. So they will get this. They can just add as many as they feel they need to finish it up. I do want to put this on black, and I don't know where my black went. So one of the kits, I had to create these kits with the materials. The instructions are going to be just one copy of the instructions. The box will be passed around and 13 people will make cards, and then I have created a couple of extra kits just in case either I need one, if somebody extra comes. I am going with 3 other people, so I have enough. These are extra kits, but for this particular project we are all on Saturday going to put these together, so I think that we'll all be in one big group. So those 3 kits actually will not need to get used. So I get to figure out what I am going to do with them. So everybody gets a random background. I did purple, blue, and black. So for their sample one, I'm going to do the black. The other little trick that I did just for fun, I'm being a little different. I went ahead and I accidentally smudged that there, so I thought, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little of the basic gray. I have this gray. Oh, looks like I didn't do his feet. So the basic gray is just to color the feet. And then I went ahead and added this little accent underneath the hello. There. And I might darken it up a little bit, get it more shadowy looking. Just to add some more depth. Give them another little exercise to practice with the colored pencils. So we leave on Tuesday. We decided, because then after Hurricane Ian, then a tropical storm, passed over the house that we are buying, it then turned and it passed up into a little bit of North Carolina along the coast, and then it passed into South Carolina on the coast, and on North Carolina, or in North Carolina, it passed east of Charlotte, and I am going to be north of Charlotte at Forest Lake, Thousand Trails. So I was hoping that it would not, turn into a big storm and cause a lot of problems, though it did again cause problems on the coast, like in the Myrtle Beach area. And again, there's pictures and it kind of looks like just a big disaster area, and I feel really bad for everyone there and the businesses there. So it should have passed. It's now up in West Virginia or something, all pretty much out of steam, and it followed me all the way up here. Luckily we were east enough that when it shifted east of Charlotte, it was a giant storm. So I don't know if you looked at how large it was like huge. So the rain, we got a tiny bit of rain, but for the most part we were just west in this northwestern corner of South Carolina that we're at. So this is the project, the second one. The last thing I'm going to do is I've got the feathers that coordinate, and I'm going to glue those on. I will provide glue for them just in case they might not have glue. You could use a glue dot cut into quarters because they're so small as an alternative. And then they all will go on white bases, which I have a whole bunch of white bases cut, because we don't have to provide envelopes, but we do complete the card. So this will get, I will go ahead and do a score on it for them, and then have those in the box as well. So if you have any questions about how swaps work, just leave them on this video and I will fill in the gaps. It's a very fun project, a way to get together and make cards that aren't your own, and it's always fun to see what other techniques people come up with. So yeah, leave any of your comments, questions, or concerns on this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.